In this video, I'm going to be explaining to you the three biggest issues that I see my trading clients have, and not only that, but how do you deal with them. My goal for this is afterwards, not only will you know what these issues are, but you'll be able to have a game plan for working on them and improving those numbers to yourself. And this will directly improve your P&L and your numbers at the end of the month. So let's get into it. The first one and the most costly problem that traders have is overtrading. Now, when my clients first come to me, normally 70-80% of them are dealing with a form of overtrading. Now, overtrading can be broken into two parts. There is overtrading based on mistakes, overtrading based on external factors. There's also overconfidence overtrading, but that's pretty rare, and we don't need to go into that here because that affects a very small percentage of people. So the first thing to understand about overtrading is which one of those is affecting you most. Now, usually for traders, actually making mistakes is more frustrating and makes them want to participate in the market more to make up for those mistakes. But a lot of traders also can get frustrated with the market. If you're in a trading firm, it might be other people who have made more money than you in a certain scenario. So you really want to be aware of what kind of overtrading you have. And then once you've identified that, which is the main cause of overtrading, the next thing is you want to get more specific. So you want to think about, when I do overtrade, what are the commonalities? What time of day is it? Is it after certain kinds of trades? Is it when I've lost X on a trade, but if I lose less than X, then it doesn't affect me. If I lose more than 500, 1K, 2K, whatever, then it does affect me. So it's really good to start diagnosing, getting really specific. What kind of triggers are there for overtrading, and what is the result? Is it one bad trade, two bad trades? Does it ruin your whole day? Do you go on, turbo tilt? Do you just get frustrated for the next 10 minutes? How much is it costing you, and what is the response? Because we need to know these things in order to create a pattern interrupt. Now, the next thing is once you understand exactly when you are overtrading, is you want to use something which I call the rapid reframe technique, which is very, very simple. Let's say a trade's gone against you and whatever, you made a mistake and you've lost 1,000, and that normally would be a trigger for frustration. When you catch yourself doing that, what you want to do is think of a rapid reframe, which is simply this. How do I think about this situation in a completely different way to feel neutral or even positive about it? So different things you can ask yourself to create a rapid reframe is, what is the lesson here? How can I actually get better? And what can I incorporate to mean that I finish this day a better trader than when I started it? That's a really good one. The next thing is timeline. So how big is this in the context of my day, my week, my month, my year, the decade, the rest of my life? Is this really going to be something that affects me? And if it's not going to be something that's going to affect you in a month from now, it's really probably not something you need to waste too much time thinking about. So contextualizing it in a bigger, with a bigger framework is helpful. And then after that, you want to focus on, how far you've come. So if you're annoyed that you made mistakes, the next thing to do is say, okay, well, what kind of mistakes was I making 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, however long you've been trading? You can keep expanding that and look how far you've come. So rather than focusing on the mistake and what you did wrong, start thinking about all the positive things you've done right and contextualize that within your kind of upward trajectory of growth. That's going to be really helpful. And then the final thing that you want to do is focus on gratitude. Actually take a moment and start to think about what you have. Well, you have technology, you have an internet connection, you have a brain, you have the energy to be able to do this. The fact that you're even trading means that, you're probably in the top few percent of most successful, wealthy people already. Even to begin trading, even as a losing trader, you're doing so much better than the vast majority of people, not just in our lifetime, but in, the vast history of, humanity. There've been about 100 billion people who have ever lived, and 90 billion of them didn't even have electricity. And how many have actually had plumbing? How many have had hot water? And when you start to actually frame yourself in that way, and think about how fortunate you are, that's helpful. If that's a bit too kind of widespread and you can't connect with that, go more specific. So start to say, okay, what are 10 or 20 things that I'm specifically grateful for, and get really granular, right? Think about, don't just say my friends or, my house, but start to think about, one friend, one particular relationship. Or, if you have children, maybe think just focus on one of your children. Or, a partner, wife, girlfriend, whatever, then think about one particular thing that you like about them, and then focus on that, start to feel some gratitude and some appreciation for it, and then just move on to the next one. Once you do that 10, 15, 20 times, I promise you, you'll be a lot less tilted. And then the final thing to say is that if you find a spot where you are over trading, where you are getting frustrated, then break the pattern. If you know that what I normally do is I make a mistake, I sit there, I look at the market, I start clicking really quickly, I start looking for another thing, and then I just snap click into another trade. And that trade is a very, very low, success rate. But I just want to get in the market. I want to distract myself from my pain, from my mistake. Then literally push yourself up, walk around the office, go outside, get some sun, close your eyes, take some deep breaths, find a way to break the pattern and find something that calms yourself down. Now, most traders are absolutely paranoid. They are terrified of missing something. Now, one time when they go for a walk or leave the office 5 minutes and they miss something big. The truth is, the 5 minutes in any career, doesn't matter whether it's trading, is just 5 minutes. The odds of missing something really big, unless there's a massive headline about to come out, is very, very slim. And so people are terrified about maybe the 1% of time they'd miss like a really good opportunity. And they don't actually think about the 99% of time when actually taking a 5 minute break, going away from the screens and, gaining some perspective and not over trading, how much value that's worth. So it could be, 1% of the time I lose a $10,000 pound opportunity, but 5%, 99% of the time, I'm probably just going to overtrade and lose 500. Well, do the maths. One is a lot more profitable than the other. So that's overtrading. The next thing is fear-based trading, which is hesitation and fear of making mistakes. So you want to think about this and reframe the fear. So what does that mean? Well, essentially it's fear. So what is it? It's fear of making a mistake, fear of looking stupid. And when you're trading from a place of fear, what it means is you're not going to be making good decisions. You're going to make emotional decisions. It may mean that you're not holding trades long enough. Might mean that you're hesitating and waiting too long for a trade to go to get more clarification. And then you just get a worse price. So what you need to do is, what I like to do here is add a lot of logic and understand why that fear actually doesn't make sense. So, for example, going back to hesitation. Well, you're scared of making a mistake. You're scared of losing money. So what happens? You want to see the trade go. You want to get more clarification. You want to get more conviction until it feels really, really safe. Well, the problem with that is that if you're waiting, then you're going to get a worse and worse price. The trade is already going. And so now the upside is smaller, the downside is bigger. And what you're actually doing is you're making it a riskier trade. Some of my clients who are very, very fast will just jump on something really quickly, set a tight stop, and they know that if they're wrong, it doesn't really matter. They won't lose much. And if they're right, they're getting maximum upside. And they know that while some people might think that that's reckless or dangerous or irresponsible, is actually the most responsible thing. They get the most bites of the carrot, and they know that they only need to be right a smaller percentage of the time because the downside is so small for them. They can literally lose a couple of ticks and it's just not a big deal when the upside could be 30, 40, 50 ticks. And they understand that just by training themselves to see something, to react really quickly and just go for it and hit it hard is the way to be safer in a trade. The next thing is to think about mistakes, and people are scared of making a mistake. It might be looking bad. So sometimes they want to watch the trade rather than participate in the trade. Now, what happens there is they feel like they want to get more proof that the trade is working. So they kind of just want to sit back and watch and wait. Now, the problem with that is that there's very much a different level of learning from doing something versus watching, right? Imagine you're watching a game of football and you're trying to learn how to dribble like Messi or Ronaldo. And now imagine you're actually playing a game of football. The feedback you get from watching something and participating in it practically is very, very different. And the learning you'll get, right? We both know playing football for 90 minutes or watching football for 90 minutes, you don't get any prizes for knowing which person's going to be better at football at the end of those 90 minutes. It's going to be the person who played the game. It's the same thing with trading. So if you approach it in that way and you understand that, hey, if I make a mistake, that's okay, because what I'm trying to optimize, especially early in my career, is actually learning. The faster I learn, grow, and develop, the faster that I can start being more profitable or become profitable, the faster I can start, increasing the size of my trades, the faster I can start improving my career. And so having very much a positive outlook on that and focusing on the upside of participating, of taking an aggressive position and learning from doing rather than being passive is a much better way to go. And so one thing you can do with that is at the start of your trading day, think about the setups, think about what you're expecting to happen, and just visualize this setup happening and you instantly reacting. See the size, see your hand moving, practice the hand movements. I've known some people who have literally unplugged their mouse and then they've literally took their mouse and they've just practiced moving the mouse and clicking, moving the mouse and clicking over and over and over again. So when the trade does happen, move the mouse and click. They've done it 20, 30, 40 times. And so their body knows exactly what to do. There is an element of physicality that comes from trading. Being able to react fast with your body is very, very important. And like anything else, training that and practicing that will make you faster. Getting faster is a skill, but you have to practice being fast. And it's not necessarily the most academic thing. It's not being linked to thinking deeply. In fact, the deepest thinkers I know in trading aren't the guys who necessarily are the fastest. So there's a time for having a lot of depth of thought and working on a big position and building a lot of conviction. And then there's also times when you want to react incredibly fast and throw caution to the wind and just know that this is a good position, and the better price you get, the more upside and the lower downside. So the third one is not having a sophisticated sizing strategy. And what I mean by that is two things. The first is not being clear about what an A, B, C, D setup is. Some people use a 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. It doesn't matter. I personally prefer numbers just because I orient that way, but either way works. So understanding what is my sizing for a 10 out of 10 opportunity. What is my sizing for a 9? What is my sizing for an 8? And what percent of the time are you consistent? Do you see an 8 and you size it like an 8, not like a 7, not like a 9, but you size it correctly? Now, a lot of people struggle with this and they can find excuses. Sometimes they'll worry about volatility, or sometimes they'll be on a bit of a bad run and so their confidence will be down. But being really consistent as a trader, it's super important to actually focus on this, thinking about, okay, what are the things I can do to build consistency and to put the correct sizing on? And if this is something that you really practice and work on, my advice with that is first start tracking it. So, okay, I did a trade. Did I use the correct sizing that I'd already discussed, that I'd already decided on based on the size of the opportunity? Yes or no? If not, was I too low or too high? Most traders will go too low. If that's the case, You want to think about, okay, what is a way that I can start to increase my size? If you are not sure whether it's a 7 or 8, and you know that historically you've been going too small and you just always size it as a 7, my advice is, if you're winning and you're doing well and you're a little further on your career, just size it like an 8. If you size an 8 as a 7, it's a lot worse than seeing a 7 out of 10 opportunity and sizing it as an 8. That's much better. You'll make more money that way. And so, when in doubt, be more aggressive on the sizing. You will make more money in the long run, assuming, caveat, that you're a winning trader, that you have a track record. If not, you want to be focusing on learning, and you want the lessons to be as cheap as possible. But as you get more advanced, having more sophistication and following a sizing plan is going to be really important. Now, the second thing I mean with sophistication of sizing is your default sizes. So what is one click of the mouse worth? What's a left click? What's a right click? Etc. And understanding when are you going to change your default sizes. Now, I've worked with guys who have gone, months, sometimes years, and just not change them. And they think it's okay. They'll just add more. They'll just click 3 times instead of 2, or 4 instead of 3, whatever. But all that's doing is actually slowing you down. What you want to do is have as economical as possible sizing plan, so that when you click into a trade, it's just one big or one small or 2 big or whatever, and it's very, very easy to put on the size that you want to as quickly as possible. And it also leads to stagnation in terms of guys get to a certain level and they don't end up increasing and improving. So what I recommend is this: have P&L based targets, and once you hit certain P&L targets, and this is reflected in the size of your trading account, so it's not necessarily just P&L in terms of profit, but how much is in your trading account. Once that's got above a certain threshold, you increase the size of your trades. Now, what you don't want is to have big gaps and then big size increases. You want it to be small and gradual. So I really like 5%, 10%, 7.5%, maybe 12.5%. I don't like anything more than that. And again, if you're starting out and your sizes are 1 and 2 and you need to go to 2 to 4, well, that's the game you're playing. Of course, you need to take a big jump. But once you get to bigger sizes and you're at, say, one of your sizes is 10, well, now it's very doable to increase that to 11 or whatever. So that adds more levels of nuance and sophistication. The higher up you go, the more you can tailor your sizing strategy. And the final thing is being really clear from looking at your best trades. So what I want you to do is go back and look at your 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 setups and see what the difference is in sizing that you've put on historically between your kind of entry level trades, your 6 out of 10s, and then say a 9, a 10 out of 10. The most successful traders, in my experience, and from talking to a lot of guys, they all seem to agree. The way they make a lot of money is by putting more size on the 9s and 10s, by really, really, really going for it in a huge way. It's not by slowly increases 6 and 7s. That helps, and that has to be part of the strategy long term, because you're going to get so many more 6s and 7 out of 10 opportunities than 9 and 10. That's just how the market works. So that has to be part of it. But usually the guys are very happy to be risking 15, 20 times as much on the really big opportunities than they are on the small. Cool. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you watch it, give a like. And if you're interested in working with me, I'm going to leave a link below. I'm a mindset coach, and I worked with hundreds of traders at this point, improving their mindset. And so if you're already doing well, this isn't for beginners. It's more if you're 6 figures and you want to get to 7 figures in, say, the next 2 to 3 years, then my program is specifically tailored for you. So if you're interested in that, click the link below. And otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.